Welcome to Bonnie's Beat. I'm your host, Bonnie Squires. We're coming to you from beautiful downtown Wayne in the studios of Radnor Studio 21. And I like to bring you interesting people who are doing important things in the community, whether it's academia, whether it's a charitable organization, Villanova basketball. I haven't gotten them yet, but maybe soon, whatever. And today we have somebody who's an old friend, and you will recognize his face and his voice because his name is Steve Highsmith, and he was on television for a very, very, very long time. Hi, Steve. Thanks so much for coming.
Bonnie, good to see you. How are you doing?
I love his voice. Doesn't he have a great voice?
Thank you.
And now, boy, did they get lucky. His alma mater, Cabrini College, lured him away from the TV life, and he's now Vice President of Institutional Advancement at Cabrini College. And probably because Steve Highsmith joined them, they're about to be elevated from college to university.
Well, not because of anything I did, but that is the good news. Cabrini, for a long time, has actually qualified to be a university, but the brand was always Cabrini College. We have offered graduate programs since the mid-1980s, which is the first step and one of the major indicators.
You don't have to have a separate, like a med school or a dental school or something?
No, you don't.
But you have to have doctoral level programs?
Well, we have doctoral programs, and there are other aspects as to why we didn't change, all pretty much around branding. We qualified, we're a strong school. But what also has happened, and not only does universities fit who we are, but we are getting more and more international students. And Bonnie, you travel lots, you probably realize this, but in many countries in the world, the word college is synonymous with high school.
Right, exactly.
And university
France,
is more for higher education.
Yes.
And so as we go more and more around the world, and Cabrini itself, the mission of Cabrini is an international mission because we have hospitals and there are elementary and secondary schools in several countries on several continents, probably 16 countries, I think, on 5 continents right now.
16.
The St. Francis Xavier Cabrini started the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart, and
you know that stuff because you were born and raised Catholic, right?
I was, but also, but I was obviously, it's an acquired knowledge when it comes to Cabrini College, soon to be Cabrini University, because I went there after some other college experience and started working and needed to work while I was in college, and one thing led to another, and I found Cabrini and loved it there. Great education. I accredit them and the professors there with a lot of the good things that I became.
Did you live on campus when you were a student?
I did not. I was a commuter because I worked. I had a full-time job. I'd get up at 2, 3 in the morning. I'd go work.
2, 3 in the morning, one of my favorite times to get up.
Yep, and I'd work the morning shift in radio with the old WCAU radio, and then I would go to college during the day, sometimes in the evening, but mostly during the day.
How many years were you at NBC 10?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, and before that?
Well, before that, for a long time, and during that time, I was still at PHL 17. If you haven't figured out, I love broadcasting and I like to work, so I did anything anyone basically asked me to do. And so I was at PHL 17 for about 20 years, 21 years almost. And I was at NBC 10 for 8 years. I was at CAU Radio for about a decade. I was at New Jersey Network Public Television for about 4 years. I worked in Minneapolis, St. Paul before that, and South Bend, Indiana.
What did you major in when you went to Cabrini College?
And it's not a shock, English and Communications.
Oh, how about that? Okay. Did you do anything on campus in communications?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, my day job was all of that, so I sort of kept that sort of small and contained. But I obviously stayed in touch with the school for many, many years. I eventually served on the Board of Trustees at Cabrini for 9 years.
That's a big ticket item. You have to make donations to be on the Board of Trustees. I know from my experience.
Some of us forgot that. But
at Temple University, I know, I understand that. But
well, if you believe in the school, as I said, I think there are thousands of institutions in this country, at least 4,000, and many of them do a good job, most of them. I think a person who wants to go to college and wants to do a good job and to work hard and to have a lot of opportunity in their career can find a place, and there are probably several places that any young person or older person retraining can thrive. But for me, Cabrini College, and I think for many others, is a very personal place. It's a place where the professors know who you are. They're excellent at what they do. There's a mission there, not only about academic excellence, which you hope that every college and university does, but about leadership and about social justice, this idea of social change. Social justice, you put in quotes today because it means different things to different people, but what it means at Cabrini is doing those things that make a better world. Fairness, justice, and realizing everybody's worth, not trying to put one person over another by nature of their own earlier success.
You sure you're not in charge of government relations too? No. Because that's a great speech to make to the state legislature.
Well, it is. I mean, there's a lot of room within institutions to find your own place, and at Cabrini it's the same way. And there isn't a political bent. It's a common sense human nature approach led by the, I guess, best practices of Catholic social teaching, as well as the guidance of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, as well as those decades of good work that have been done on the ground here in this region by the professors and the students that have come long before me, and the staff that work in Norristown to help people in many ways, which we could talk about. The other outreach they do all the way to the halls of Washington, D.C. to try to raise awareness about the complicated issues of life and how we should respond to them.
It's almost a shame that the CC, the alliteration, Cabrini College, will disappear in July when you become Cabrini University. And I suddenly had a mental image of two C's. I forget which designer pocketbook has the two C's. And I thought, oh.
Well, I'm not going to endorse anyone other than Cabrini College, but that would be it. But, CC's is a lot of things, It's a designation for the size of a motorcycle engine. It's a lot of things. But at any rate, Cabrini University is going to be a great thing for Radnor Township, for the main line, for this region. And as I said, we have a reach that goes from Argentina to China to Europe. No matter where you go in this country, there are thousands and thousands of graduates now. But it is by design a smaller institution that is designed to realize that some people need some help getting where they need to go. That the great thing about life in America and around the world is that you might be born into a situation where it is a little bit easier for you to have a path somewhere. But the great thing that can also happen is that you cannot have had a great upbringing financially, and you can nonetheless still get there and thrive and have a great opportunity to help the world, to help other people, to have a great family, to be healthy. And those are things that Cabrini tries to focus on. And we have a lot of first-generation students. And in fact, don't hold me to the exact percentage. I think about half of our incoming class this year was first-gen students. So that's part of what we're all about, trying to provide opportunity to people while getting a good academic education.
Talk about scholarships and grants and how much it costs to go to Cabrini compared to other, because it's a private college, right?
It is.
So that means, by definition, it's going to be more expensive than a state-related university or state university, yes?
Yes and no. There's a thing called the discount rate. So in other words, if we depending on the financial condition of colleges in a given year and all of that, but we will look at a student, and if that student academically is somebody that we really want to get on campus, then that is one potential way we might be able to offer scholarships to be able to defray those costs. We have about 40 scholarships on campus, so we can work in that way. We try every way we can to try to make things work. We understand how difficult it is. It's very expensive. That's the biggest challenge for people who want to go to college and universities today, is how you pay for it. And
I don't care what Bernie Sanders says, it's not going to be free college tuition. Where's the money going to come from, right?
Well, I'm not going to get into that. I'll let you say that. But the point is, it is very expensive, and I think a lot of folks maybe would, if they were given the right tutelage on it, would understand how expensive and why it is expensive. It's not just cost of professors, for example, though that's a very serious portion of it, and for good reason. These are very educated people, and they do a lot of work that isn't seen by a lot of people. But in addition to that, though, we have the same kind of expenses that a lot of other people do. We have to put the heat on, we have to maintain buildings, we have to do, we have to do all those
maintenance, things. Gardeners.
Food. There are a lot of things that have to happen.
Do kids live on campus?
Yes. In fact, I would say probably about 900 or so of the current crop of 1,500. We go between 1,500 and probably 2,000 students in a 4-year class. So we right now have somewhere between 900. We could probably go up to 950. If we did another residence hall, we'd be around 1,000 or 1,100.
Is there a plan for another residence hall?
Well, there are always plans.
Is that one of your tasks, to go out and
Well,
find somebody to endow a new residence hall?
Not necessarily. However, there are a lot of different plans, because we're always, higher ed has really been a great thing for the American economy and for state and local economies. There are good wages. We teach people how to do things that are needed today in the workforce. And so whether it's a community college, whether it's the traditional college that's been around for 150 years, whether it's a newer college that just comes on the block, the nonprofit colleges that have been around for a little while, that have a track record, they're doing things, good things for people. And I'm fortunate to be asked to be a part of Cabrini College, Cabrini University, to be a part of that.
When you change the name officially to Cabrini University, are you going to have fireworks on Montgomery Avenue? Are you going to have a brass band?
I don't think we got approval for that. I don't think
What
we
are
have
you
the
going to
permit
do?
for that.
Do you have plans yet for that?
Well, there are a lot of plans, but this has been a long process. As I said, we qualified probably decades ago. We started just a little while ago and went through a formal process. The state is the one that actually allows that to happen. So the Pennsylvania Department of Education authorized that in late April, about April 26th, I believe. And it takes effect with the start of the next fiscal year. So July 1st is when we will officially become Cabrini University.
And when Governor Wolf will have his next budget, please God.
Well, it would help all of higher ed, all of
Yes.
elementary and secondary education, and a lot of other people who aren't involved in education but do other functions in society that rely on this for the legislature and the governor to somehow have some common sense and realize what's going on and do things in a timely manner. There are people who have been probably harmed as a result of this.
Oh, a lot of people.
I don't think it's any of the legislators' intention to harm people. I don't think it's the governor's intention to do it. I don't.
Let's vote on that.
I have a deep confidence in the basic worth of everyone, but the good intentions of most people. There are very few people that really intend to do something bad. They just don't. They either aren't educated enough, they don't have the right idea about the impact of what they're doing, or they're greatly misinformed. And I mean, there are a few selfish people, there are a few others, but I'm more on the positive side. I think that there are enough great people in society. If you really realize how fragile society can be, we have a wonderful world out here where people are cooperating. We just need to get a lot of people who are in positions of authority who can communicate with others, to do so in a way that's truly constructive, to tackle some of these larger problems that we really have. These are not easy issues.
You mentioned education. Are there relationships between Cabrini College and elementary schools or high schools or student groups?
There are all kinds on various levels. So, for example, Cabrini has one of the strongest teacher education programs in the state.
That's what I wanted to know, what the majors were.
We educate a lot of teachers, and so they're in schools throughout the Commonwealth and in other states.
But it's not just Catholic education that you're teaching them.
And you don't have to be Catholic to go to Cabrini. We have people from all faiths who come to Cabrini. And Cabrini is a big C Catholic institution, but it's also a little c universal institution. And we're here to be a good place to learn all the things you would normally learn at any college or university, but also to do so in a very understanding, caring environment, and in which we try to understand each other better, because the alternative is not good, let alone it's just the right thing to do.
The main building is this magnificent old mansion. I can't remember the name of the person who once owned it and actually lived there.
Well, it was built in 1901.
Woo.
And it was the Dorrance family. Well, originally, basically the folks that transferred it over to the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart, who had it as an orphanage for a few years before the college was established. The Dorrance family is the Campbell Soup family. So the Hamiltons, the Hamiltons and all those folks, they're all involved.
It's nice what old money can do.
Well, it's nice what philanthropy can do.
Yes.
And I think that, they're a great family. There are fortunately many great families here that help a lot of our colleges and universities. Cabrini's been blessed to have a lot of people, and some of the folks that have graduated from our school who have done very well, like Tom Nerney and others, who's the head of USLI.
What is USLI?
That's an insurance right off 202.
Okay.
And the big insurance company. And so connected with Warren Buffett and the whole thing. So,
Ooh, name dropper.
whom I've never met, but Tom has. So there are just a lot of good people that are involved in these things. That's why I'm excited to be with them. I think that Cabrini is an energetic, really caring institution, and I can't emphasize that enough. It's personal without being. It's small in one sense. It's very large in another. Its heart is huge. St. Francis Xavier Cabrini was about education of the heart. So caring about people who are in poverty, caring about people who have had various manners of injustice in their lives and against them, finding out ways where we can together move forward, that's the overall thing. And it's not a political thing. It's how do we socially do the right thing together? How do we work with each other? It may find itself manifested in some political decisions that the individual makes, but there isn't a doctrine that comes out that way. This is an education of the heart, and that's an interesting thing.
Boy, you're a fast learner. Oh my goodness, how long have you been there as vice president?
Well, I told you I was on the board of trustees before, so
that's right.
I graduated from there, so I have a little bit of this in me. I think I have this right. When we talk about remembering things in English, the word is remember. But in Spanish, it's recordar, and that actually comes, the root word, from the heart. So there's a different way sometimes you can remember things, you can think of things, you can feel things. And so I think that when we try to talk about how do we educate ourselves, how do we educate people of all ages, how do we make college decisions for our kids. Usually it's our kids who make the college decisions.
That's true.
They want to do it. What I tell anyone that talks about Cabrini is I say, well, here's what we think we do well, here's who we are, here are the facts and all of that, and we talk a little bit more. And I said, but college, in my mind, should be a business decision, it should be a heart decision, it should be an intellectual decision. What do you want to study? Does that school have those things? How far do you want to be from home? How often do you want to go home? How far do you want to be from your friends? Do you want to live on campus? Do they have fraternities or sororities? Do you want those or not want those? What kind of nightlife do they have? What can you do on the weekends? But then also, what kind of student loan debt are you going to be saddled with? And
that's a
what kind of scholarships do you get? And all of those things.
Nationally,
so there's a lot of things that come into the decision about that. And what I find is that the folks that I work with are very good at bringing up all those things and helping navigate people through that.
If someone wants to learn about Cabrini College without physically going to the college, there must be some presence on the web.
Cabrini.edu. Mm-hmm.
Cabrini.
Or just Google Cabrini College and it'll come up. And after July 1, you could still Google Cabrini College, but go to Cabrini University, it'll probably show up too.
And what do you do students today, I'm always shocked when I meet a young person who doesn't read newspapers. They get their news from the internet. That makes me nauseous because it's just not the same thing. And it's not the same, because you were such a responsible journalist and did a lot of research and investigation before you would utter a word on the radio, on television. But kids today, if they get a tweet, they think that's truth. They think it came down from the mountain. So what are the different types of social media that Cabrini College is using to reach the millennials?
All of them, all of the ones that you would anticipate. There isn't any one way. I think that's the most difficult thing for people that are older than 30 years of age or 40 years of age to understand, is that there isn't one platform anymore. You just can't put it in the newspaper or put it on a television station and expect that a huge percentage of people are going to see it. And you have to reach out on various media, through various media and on various platforms within those media to be able to make sure that there's a critical mass of people that get your message. That can be very expensive, it can be very time consuming, it's not done in the same way. You don't take one article and just say, well, this is the Twitter version of it and it's the same article. No, there's a different way to do it. And so a lot of people just aren't good at that or don't have the time or the resources to do it. And do you need to hire a
crop of young ones to do that, or?
No, we have some older heads that know how to do stuff too. Some of it is.
Are you good with tweeting?
I am okay with it. I choose not to do it too often. I do it though, and I have used a blog from time to time. I populated a blog. I have also, obviously used Facebook and other things. But I tend to.
Facebook I use.
Yeah.
And Twitter, even though somehow miraculously I figured out how to set up an account for myself, I get tweets, but I never tweet back. I don't remember how to do it, how to get into it.
I'm not as interested as engaging in a dialogue through Twitter, because I don't think there's much of a dialogue you can have with 140 characters. But I am interested in learning, because every now and then someone will, if not say something, they'll link to something that is worth reading. So I think if you have Twitter in your arsenal of how to become informed, then I think you'll be fine. I don't think we should be threatened by necessarily the means of communication. It's the content that's within the communication. And that's what's a challenge, because when there were newspapers that were really strong, or when there were networks that were really strong and really watched, they would occasionally make mistakes, but they also had a ton of money that they could spend on investigative reporting. And,
that's true.
And because so many people viewed them, when something was reported, it had an impact. The impact becomes harder and harder to do if the person who's the subject of that story feels, well, this will blow over, this will just go away, because only 1% of the people saw this. And so we have a lot of challenges that way as a society. I have a lot of faith, because I work around younger people a lot, and I have a lot of faith that younger people are aware of these kinds of issues, and that they will find their footing, because they care about society too. The people who are students at Cabrini College, college students are college students, but our college students in particular have a sense of the world out there and what's going on. They may not have the answers, they may have a lot of questions, which is great, but I think they're going to lead. And I think that's the thing that a lot of folks have to understand. Just because it isn't 1955 or 65 or 75 doesn't mean the world's over. It just means that it's being run a different way, reached a different way, communicated through a different way. And we have less time on some matters. Whether it's climate, we don't know how much time we have.
Ooh.
Whether it's nuclear weapons and proliferation, we don't know how much time we have. So there's a lot of stress that can be on young people. And
is there a discussion on campus in a lot of media? There's a discussion that there are too many liberals teaching at universities, and they're shutting out people who have a different viewpoint, or conservatives when it comes to politics. Is that a discussion at Cabrini?
Yes, all the time. And because that's the idea of a university. A university talks about those things which are uncomfortable. And so whether it's talking about are we too liberal, are we too conservative, are we not, that should be discussed. And it's always a challenge. Part of the problem is that almost any college or university in this country probably at one time or another has had a commencement speaker or someone else that's been invited to campus that somebody hasn't liked. And some of those are conservative and some of them are liberal. And some of them are way farther left than liberal and maybe even farther conservative than conservative. So, and then some people are in the middle and maybe we don't know what they are. But the point is that the true idea of a university is that you will be a place where there's a lot of ideas. I am not aware of professors who would grade based upon that kind of thing. I think nationwide there may be a few examples of that, but
you know what really bothers me? When a university picks someone for an honorary doctorate or a commencement speaker, and all of a sudden there's like pandemonium and there's a demonstration, and sometimes they even cancel the invitation to the speaker. And I thought, but the whole point, just what you said, the point of a university is to explore different ideas, different viewpoints, and let people be exposed to them so they have the tools to make their own decisions.
Well, there are two issues there, though, and I can't claim perfection on this because I could make this very same mistake, but there's a difference between inviting a person to speak and giving them an honorary doctorate. That is a little different. What I would suggest is that any vice president, staff, and president and board of trustees surely need to think everything through, and they should not be surprised if they invite someone to campus that is controversial, that there's going to be some pushback from sections, and then they're either going to decide, well, we don't want to go through that, and so they don't invite the person to begin with, or they say, we're going to get this and we're going to ride it out, and we're going to be clear about why we actually invited this person or why we gave this person an honorary doctorate. Some of the people who get invited because the students want them to be invited. Well, we try to encourage student involvement, to get students to think critically. And you'd be surprised how the students get engaged, and sometimes they will be, in lockstep with the person they invited who's extremely controversial, but sometimes they won't. They'll go, wait a minute, that's not, and they'll ask critical questions. This is a part of learning, not to fear knowledge and discourse. We have to be open about that. I think what happens in our society is that there are sectors who feel that they're not allowed to speak, or that their words are not worth as much as somebody else's in another setting. And I think we have to work very hard to prevent that kind of feeling.
What kind of social life do your students have on campus? Are there,
I don't know, they don't invite me. No,
are there several times a year where there's something big that's happening at Cabrini?
Well, it's a normal college. I mean, in the sense that, you know, we have homecoming and we have those other kinds of events.
Did you have commencement, by the way?
No, it's coming up.
When's your commencement?
Well, this is going, by the time people are seeing this, we will have had commencement this weekend, the weekend that precedes this airing.
Okay.
But as of the time we speak, no, we haven't had it yet.
Is there a speaker or an honorary degree recipient for Cabrini's
Yes.
commencement? Are you allowed to say who?
I believe so. Ibu Patel.
I don't know who that is.
Very, very Chicago-based, intelligent, thoughtful person who is going to talk a lot about how to bring the world together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know, I have a lot of understanding. So I think, I think whoever gets invited, you know, wherever they are, you know, they get invited for different reasons. Some people do it for media attention. Some people do it for other things. That's why you get, you know, well-known politicians going to schools, or entertainers. Sometimes the students want the entertainer to come. You know, it is supposed to be a pleasant event.
Sometimes the entertainer is also a do-gooder that's saving the world.
Oh, anyone in mind?
Well, I remember hearing Bono at Penn. Penn's my alma mater, and he urged the 6,000 graduates to go save the world, and he was, and since he has a track record of doing that himself, it was very believable, really was.
Well, what do you think is the biggest challenge for higher education, biggest problem or greatest strength? What would you say it is?
I think the biggest challenge right now is funding, quite honestly, especially when you take a look at what the state legislature has done. They don't realize how much harm has been inflicted because 9 months past the due date, there was no budget. And there's been no intent so far to give the universities and the nonprofit agencies the money that they need to pay off the bank loans so they could stay in business and continue their mission. Unfortunately, I hate to say it comes down to money, but in this day and age, that's what it's coming down to. We'll see. We'll see. But you're the Vice President for Development, so therefore Cabrini University won't have any problems in the future, right?
From your words, or your mouth rather, to God's ears.
Who's the chairman of your board now?
The chairman, well, is John Shans of Comcast. He's got about another year probably left.
Ooh, isn't that nice?
Yeah, well, John's a great guy.
Isn't that nice?
John is a wonderful man, and very intelligent and very caring, and travels the world to try to help people with education. And, you know, he would be probably not like me to say this, but he personally, he walks the walk, let me just put it to you that way.
And your president is?
Donald Taylor, President Taylor. And Don's been there for about, on campus everybody calls him DT, but he's been around about 1.5 years now, I think, going on to his second year there.
And they said it wouldn't last.
And they said it wouldn't last. Well, that's the tough thing. You know, one of the challenges for higher education is that people used to have jobs longer. Now, you could say that's probably true for every profession. But in higher education, the average year, I think the life expectancy, if you will, in term of a president used to be 15 years. I think it's down to about half that now.
I think it's like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Because we just lost Peter Lee, of course, when he was president of Temple University. 18 years he was the president. Yeah. But that gave him time.
Well, you see how long it takes to do that. Well, it does.
Yes.
And the same, anybody who's in development who might be watching right now, they know this very well. The average length of time in office of anyone who's in institutional advancement development is about 1.5 years. And everything...
You don't have time to unback the boxes.
No, you know, everything about fundraising is relationships. It's about getting people to trust you, about knowing what's going on, and to work with them over time to develop the vision that they have and the institution has.
Well, our guest today has been Steve Highsmith, who is now the Vice President for Development at Cabrini College, soon to be Cabrini University. Yep. Thank you so much, Steve.
Well, thank you, Bonnie.
We'll see everybody next week.